In this video, I'm going to share how I've been able to build an emergency fund, which is currently sitting at about half my yearly salary, and how I've been able to build this one paycheck at a time. For this video, I thought to myself, what do I wish someone had told me when I started saving about 18 months ago? And I've tried to include all of that into this video. So let's jump straight in with step number one, which is to map out your finances. In order to build an emergency fund, ultimately you have to earn more money than you spend. And then the money that's left over at the end, you can set that aside and that becomes your emergency fund. That's fundamentally what we're talking about here. Very, very simple. But it's easier said than done if you don't truly understand your finances. You have to truly understand money in versus money out. Exactly how much money are you earning each month? Exactly how much money are you spending each month? And this is where mapping out your finances comes in. So there are many ways that you can do this, but what I suggest is something that's super simple. And that's you take a sheet of paper, you draw a line down the middle, and on the left side, you write down all of the money that comes in. So this could be your salary, this could be interest from bank accounts, maybe it's rent if you're a landlord. And then on the right side, you write down all of the things you spend money on. This is your money out. And what I would suggest, it's something that's worked really well for me, is to take the last 3 months of your bank statements and then write down everything you've spent money on, and then divide that by 3 to give you an average of how much you're spending each month. I think this is a better way of doing it because some months you're going to spend a lot, other months you're going to spend less. By taking an average, you get a better representation of actually how much money you're spending each month. And I think the more accurate you are with these calculations, the easier the next steps will be. And really go into as much detail as possible here. Put down all of your subscriptions, your mortgage, your rent, your bills, your shopping receipts, everything. And then when you've done that, you'll have a much better idea of how healthy your finances are. Now, hopefully the number on the left is larger than the number on the right. If it's not, and you're actually spending more than you're earning, then you have a bigger problem and you really need to sort that out before we even get onto the topic of emergency funds. So you've really got 2 options here. Firstly, you could try and earn more. So maybe this is asking for a pay rise or working a few extra hours, doing dog walking or setting up a side hustle that's really popular at the moment. Find ways that you can bring in more money each month. The other option is to try and cut your expenses. So look through your list of everything you've spent money on and think to yourself, what can I cut here? What can I actually save money on? Something I've been doing recently is trying to cut down on my shopping bills, changing up my diet or shopping at different stores, right? So maybe that's something you can try, or maybe you want to cancel some of your subscriptions, or maybe you change your electricity provider so you have cheaper bills. Whatever it is, there are many ways that you can cut down your costs. And ideally, you try and do both. You try and earn more money and you try and cut your expenses. This way you're doing as much as you possibly can to have a larger gap and therefore have more money left over at the end of each month. If you haven't gone through this exercise of mapping out your finances, I think you'll be shocked. It's amazing how even the smallest things add up over time, and before you know it, you're spending a lot of money that you didn't know you were spending. So if you haven't gone through this exercise, I thoroughly suggest that you map out your finances. It will help with the next 2 steps. Step 2 is to save little and often. So now you understand exactly how much money is left over in your account at the end of each month. Now you can start to put together a plan. How much do you want? How quickly do you want to get it? Now, the go-to number, which is talked about a lot online, is having an emergency fund, which is 1 year's salary. Now, I'm currently at about half a year's salary, but I am aiming for that 1 year. But ultimately, you have to do what you're comfortable with. Other people may be saving thousands and thousands each month, but if you can't do that, if your financial situation doesn't allow that, then don't do it. Do what you're comfortable with. It's much better to be saving $100 each month regularly than to overshoot your goal and put yourself in financial jeopardy. Now, a key thing here, which has been really valuable for me, is moving your money out of your main account and into a separate account. So you can either set up an automatic payment where the money comes out of your account each month, or you can do it a more manual way. So personally for me, I do it the manual way. Every time I get a new paycheck, I calculate how much money is going to be left over, and then I manually move that from one bank account into another bank account. And there are 2 reasons why I think moving into a separate bank account is so powerful. 1, it avoids temptation. If the money is in a separate bank account, then you're going to be less tempted to use it. When you want to buy something expensive and new and you really want it, if you have a few $1,000s or £3,000 in your bank account, you're going to be very tempted to eat into that to get the thing that you want. But if you have that money set aside in a separate account, it adds that extra barrier. It makes it that little bit more difficult to get that money to buy the thing that you want. This just makes it easier to stick to your goal. And two, it prevents accidental overspending. So if you've moved that money into a separate account and you accidentally overspend, you're not going to be eating into your emergency fund. So obviously, again, be sensible with this. You never want to be in a situation where you're going into your overdraft, but I found it really, really important that each month I send a chunk of money across into a separate bank account. That way I can very clearly see what my emergency fund is right now, and I can see it growing each month. So you've mapped out your finances, you've worked out how much money is going to be left at the end of each month, and you've set up a plan and started to move money into a separate account each month. Now you can move on to step 3, which is to grow the money that you've saved. So as well as just saving money each month, what you can do is you can take the money that you've saved and use that to earn even more money. So there are a couple of ways that you can do this. The most common ways are to put your money into a savings account and get some sort of interest back on that money, or use your money and invest in something. And if we talk about savings accounts very quickly, my advice here is to really hunt around and be picky and find exactly the savings account that you want. There are so many different types. There's a fixed term savings account where you put your money away and you can't get access to that money for a year or 3 years, 5 years, whatever the fixed term is. Now generally these give you a better interest rate, but you don't have the flexibility, you can't get access to your money. So if that's not comfortable for you, then avoid that. Maybe you go for an easy access account where you put your money in and you can access your money whenever you want. Or maybe you put it into an account where you can access your money twice a year. When you have your plan for how you want to build your emergency fund, when you understand your finances and how flexible you can make the right decision on what type of savings account you can go for. For me, I just have a really simple easy access account with HSBC that gives me 4% return. But what's good is I actually get the interest back each month. So every month I can actually see that account growing a little bit. Now I could get a higher interest rate if I went for more of a fixed term savings account, but I like the idea of having that easy access. I can get to that money whenever I want. Also, a little bit of advice here is to check what sort of protection you can get. So in the UK, generally a savings account, you have up to £85,000 protected, so that even if the bank collapses, you can still get your money back. Now, I'm sure every country has different rules around this, so make sure when you're choosing your savings account that you look at what sort of protection you can have, because you never know what the banks are going to do. You need to understand what you're signing up for. Now, as well as putting your money into savings accounts, you can also invest your money. So there are many ways that you can do this. There are literally thousands of videos, thousands of books on how best to invest. You could invest your money in a company, or you could invest in stocks and shares, index funds, whatever. What I'm doing is I'm investing in the S&P 500. So each month I take a chunk of money and I invest it in the S&P 500. And I'm just using Vanguard as my broker, I guess. There are tons of other index funds that you could invest in, and you don't have to invest in index funds. You could invest in property, you can invest in businesses, like I say, all sorts of different options here. Now, generally, investments will give you a better return than putting your money into a savings account, but there's also a lot more risk involved. You put your money into a savings account, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to get that return at the end of the year or whatever. But if you invest your money into the S&P 500, for example, maybe this year it goes up 10%, but maybe it only goes up 1%, maybe it goes down. You don't have that assurance that you're going to get the money back. So there's a higher risk, but generally a higher return. So again, do what is comfortable for you. Understand your financial situation and work out what sort of risk you can take, or what sort of risk you're willing to take, and do what makes sense for you. Now, personally, I'm doing a mixture. I'm putting money into a savings account, and I'm also investing my money in the S&P 500. I just like the idea of having multiple options here, but again, you do you. So to summarize, what we've done is we've mapped out our finances, so we understand exactly how much money is going to be left in the account at the end of each month. Once we understand that, we can put together a plan on how we're going to be saving. Then each month we move money across into a separate account. Every time you get a paycheck, you move the money across, and then you take that money and you use that to earn even more money. This is how you can grow an emergency fund nice and efficiently. This is what I've been doing over the last 18 months and how I've been able to build my emergency fund to about half a year's salary. So I really hope that was useful, and that by following these 3 steps, you're able to grow your emergency fund. Or if you've already started growing your emergency fund, that these 3 steps help you grow it even faster. It's been working really well for me, and I hope it works even better for you. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.